everyone. So it's a pleasure to be here today with you and to be able to introduce this topic to you. So I have a few slides here just to outline the agency's communication and engagement plan on the external extended mandate, which came into application yesterday on the 1st of March. So just to give you a brief background, what the extended mandate means. So the regulation it facilitates and strengthens coordinated EU response during times of crisis through formalization of structures that were set up during the pandemic, but also by giving some new tasks to the agency. So in particular, the legislation establishes an executive group on shortages and safety of medicinal products, which is known as the MSSG, to ensure a robust response to major events in relation to shortages. And this is supported by the SPOC and the ISPOC system to continuously monitor any event that is likely to lead to a major event or a public health emergency. The legislation also establishes medical device shortages steering group, which would have the same legal basis as the MSSG, with the powers to coordinate the monitoring of shortages of critical medical devices. And this will be set up in February next year. The legislation then also establishes the emergency task force, which is responsible for leading the scientific response to a declared public health emergency. Will provide accelerated scientific advice, provide advice on clinical trials, undertake reviews of medicines to be used in a public health emergency, and provide recommendations on compassionate use for medicines. And distribution of unauthorized medicines. And then finally, there's the transfer of the tasks that were previously assigned to the European Commission of managing the EU expert panels for clinical evaluation of certain high-risk medical devices and in vitro diagnostics that were set up according to the new medical device regulation. So EMA has put in place a communication engagement plan in place to ensure continuous communication and engagement throughout the different steps of the implementation. So if we go to the next slide, please. So the plan maps the key stakeholder groups and their different needs together with any risks identified and overarching key messages. It highlights key milestones and planned communication and engagement activities for those. If we go to the next slide. So this slide just gives the overall timelines of the mandate. So the last year was mainly a preparatory phase to prepare for the implementation, and during this time, EMA already started interaction with this working group on to provide updates on the preparations and the progress. So the actual implementation phase started after the 1st of February this year, and since 1st of March, yesterday, we are in the delivery phase. If we move to the next slide. And just to say that in terms of stakeholders, patients, healthcare professionals are a very important audience. Together with many others, including new ones, such as the medical device industry and clinical trial sponsors. So stakeholder groups are very wide with different interests and concerns, which all have to be taken into consideration. And a key concern common to all stakeholders is transparency as well as involvement in the different activities. If we move to the next slide. So most of the existing communication and engagement tools and structures are valid and are being used for the implementation of this plan. So for communication activities, tools include the EMA website, dedicated press releases, public shortage catalog, social media, to name the most important ones. And current communication channels in use will also be considered, such as social media outlets, scientific journals. And then in terms of engagement tools, there is the multi-stakeholder workshop planned for the 1st of April, which Ivana will further elaborate on. So in addition to the workshop, there's also creation of a new engagement tool. It's the standing group with industry stakeholders, which will provide regular intervals and general updates on the status of implementation to industry stakeholders. If we move to the next slide, please. So on this slide, it's just to show that the communication plan has identified key milestones that will require communication and engagement activities, and these will progressively be addressed as they are being implemented. So in terms of medicine shortages, there's the setup of the MSSG, the establishment of the SPOC working party, guidance to the ISPOC network. In terms of the emergency task force, there's the start of the operation of the task force under the new mandate. And then, finally, the medical device panels, the setup of the permanent secretariat. If we move to the next slide, this is just to illustrate the communication that has happened on the 1st of February on the news item and social media activity to mark the entering into force of the legislation. And then on the next slide, just a screenshot of the update and the news announcement that was issued yesterday, together with relevant updates on our website. And and then just to say that further updates will follow as the timelines and new milestones will be implemented. So maybe I just stop here